Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Always an Expat, a podcast for British expats in America by British expats in America, dedicated to elevating expat stories, brought to you by fellow British expat, yours truly, Richard Taylor. My guest today is Mrs. Kate Taylor. Yes, that's right, folks. This is a very special episode, as today we have my wife, the calming goat herself, on the pod. So, for the uninformed, Kate is a highly accomplished executive. She's built and run internal recruitment and talent functions inside some very significant businesses in the UK, Dubai, and America, spanning multiple industries including fashion, travel, and healthcare. She is currently bossing it as the VP of Talent at the hugely impressive global leader in cancer treatment that is Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York. However, that's not even the most interesting and impressive thing about Kate, which I'm sure she'll agree is the fact that she's married to me.
Knew that was coming.
I had to. Okay, so this episode promises to be a little bit different, and we're not entirely sure where it's going, but I'm excited to get into it. And I've also asked producer Sam, who usually lurks silently in the background, to properly join in with us this time. So there's some changes to our usual format, and let's see what goodies they yield. All right, let me just get the boring stuff out of the way. Always an Expat is not a financial podcast. It's a podcast about the expat journey, specifically being a Brit in the US, but it is brought to you by Plan First Wealth. Plan First Wealth is a business I founded and run today, and we work with successful British expatriates living across the US, people like the ladies and gents who feature on this show, and we help them make the most of their opportunity, avoid the expat landmines, and one day retire happier. Now, with that being said, whilst Plan First Wealth LLC is an SEC-registered investment advisor, the views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the speakers and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of Plan First Wealth. Information presented is for educational purposes only. So, without further ado, let's do this. Hi, Kate and Sam. Welcome to Always an Expat.
Hello.
Hi, Rich. Hi, Sam.
Hello.
Yeah, it's good to be here.
That was a lot. So can you two just talk amongst yourselves while I recover from that?
Yeah, I bet we can. I'm sure there's a lot I can ask Kate. So it's really good to have Kate here.
Thank you.
To see the other side of Rich. I can't wait to see the dynamic of you two and learn maybe some of the similarities and differences in your guys' opinions on the journey over here and how it's been for you both.
Well, you know what? I think that's a good place to pick it up then. So, Kate, I normally start by asking people to tell me their story, tell me how they ended up in this unfortunate position, sat here talking to me. Now, I guess with you, the unusual position here is a lot of your story is actually, a lot of it's kind of our story, but told from your perspective. But don't worry, I'll be here to mansplain if I think you get any of it wrong. I'm going to be careful. I might be guilty of that. So let's start there. How did you end up in this unfortunate position sat here talking to me?
Oh, well, how far do we want to go back with that conversation?
All the way. It has to go. That is the beginning, is how did you guys meet? And maybe start there. Right. How'd you guys meet? And then we can get to your decision as a couple, I guess, to come here.
Okay, so we actually met in high school on a school ski trip, I believe. We were 14 years old, so we've known each other a really... 13. Okay, you were 13, I was 14. He loves to remind me that for 4 months of a year.
Woman.
I'm a toy boy.
On a school ski trip when we were 14 years old, so we've known each other a really long time. And I'm sure Rich has told you a million times, because I've also heard it on his podcast, he goes on about Bolton all the time. I'm actually not from Bolton, went to school there, but I'm from Manchester. So
she thinks that makes her sound cooler.
No, but I just mean I don't have the Bolton pull that you have about Bolton.
You're not Bolton aristocracy?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay. Am I Bolton aristocracy?
Also not.
You weren't meant to answer. Okay.
Yeah, so you met when you were 14. You guys start dating then right away, or just friends for a while?
Oh, we were dating, but then, it was like 14-year-old dating, so it was very on and off.
Gotcha.
pretty much all through our teens, actually. And then we went together at university, and got back together after Rich got back from traveling when we were like 22, 23.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we've been together ever since we were in our early 20s. We were living in Manchester in a place called Didsbury, and honestly thought that's where I was going to be for the rest of my life. It's really weird now to think of that. And we have that when I was having the thought process about this podcast. And we got married in 2010 in Italy. And in 2011, Rich was really pushing for us to move to London. Like, he did not want to be in Manchester. And I didn't want to go to London because everyone was going to London and we were just going to be following the path of all our friends who'd gone. And then in May 2011, we went to a friend's birthday party, met a couple who just moved back from Dubai, got talking to them separately. I was talking to Sam, you were talking to Tara, and they were like, oh, you should go. It was amazing. The next day, hungover, we did some Googling, and a month later, we had job offers and we're moving to Dubai. And that is our thought process around becoming expats in like our we're 27, 28.
27, yeah.
Yeah. And so we didn't think about it, thought the story was everyone goes to Dubai for a couple of years, then comes back to the UK. And that's what was going to happen with us. I joined a retail group. And I think that's obviously we're becoming expats, but our expat experience from a work perspective has been incredibly different. When we moved to Dubai, Rich was working with all British people. I moved to Dubai and was working with 90 different nationalities. And so the initial transition was really tough for me because everyone's working in their own work mode and trying to figure all that out. And Rich was like, oh, it's so easy for me. I'm just working with Brits. But at the end of being in Dubai for 4 years, I think my experience was significantly richer. And my friends were from all over the world. And I loved the craziness of working with loads of different nationalities and that experience. So I think that was our experiences on a day-to-day basis going to work have always been pretty different from an expat perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like Rich had a bit of a soft landing into the expat world.
Well, yeah, from that
At least
perspective.
in maybe
Although
Dubai.
it's kind of a brutal world out there. It's like I went from a highly regulated in profession in the UK to the same profession but very unregulated. And I tell you, there's nothing like that to make you realise the value of regulation. It was wild. I'm sure it still is. So it was from the perspective Kate's saying, yes, it was an ease in, but there were challenging aspects to it for sure.
Yeah, and so, Kate, you said you thought you might stay in Manchester. Like,
yeah.
How old were you when you said, because you went to Dubai, you said when you were like 27?
27, yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you when you were like, this is it, Manchester? Like, were you 22?
Not like it was a conscious decision, right? Like, I think that I didn't know anyone who'd ever moved abroad. No one in my family had. Like, it was all just relative to what I'd experienced. Mm-hmm. So like I really liked Manchester. The thought of not living, like, not that I didn't want to live anywhere else. It's just that how do you live somewhere else when you've grown up in Manchester? So it was just a really weird, like, the limitations were my own limitations in my head that wasn't even necessarily conscious of at the time, I think.
It wasn't a conscious decision. It was just, that's what you do.
It's the size of your world at the moment.
You go to college, then you come back, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that's not how it. I'm so glad that's not how it worked out. But that's the path we were on.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious about how. Was it truly like an impulse thing? That it seems sudden, like this move to Dubai.
It was really impulse. It was really impulse. There was no
crazy
thought
to
process,
me.
really.
But it almost seems like maybe that's sometimes the way it needs to be to
totally
break that wall of like, I'm going to stay here forever, or I could just leave tomorrow.
Well, I think also personality-wise, like, we're both fairly knee-jerk people. And so it wasn't that I didn't want to move and I was settled on being in Manchester. It was just that, like, oh, God, everyone's going to London. I don't want to just copy that route. And then all of a sudden, this other exciting opportunity. And I'm like, yeah, sure, like, let's do it. And we're not going to overthink that. And to both of our credit, and in some cases, it's not always worked out in our favor. I think we're both pretty just like gung-ho about stuff, like give it a go. If it doesn't work out, we can, you can go back. It doesn't matter. But I think that the more you take big leaps, the less afraid you are of those leaps. So this was our first one, but it worked out really well. So it just gave me the confidence to be like, we can do this again. Like, that's fine.
We also had very little to lose and no real ties. We didn't own property. We had no kids.
You know, didn't have a dog at the time.
We didn't even have a dog. It was just us two. My career had kind of stalled a bit. Kate was in a good job, but it wasn't something you were like wedded to for the next 20 years, obviously. So it was just fortuitous. It was just an opportunity for us to go there and do something, which is why I was angling for London. Because where else do you go in the UK? You go to London. Mm-hmm. I'd now say you go to Edinburgh as well, but right then I was thinking just London. That was it. My horizon, I couldn't imagine anything else until we went to this party. I'm on crutches because I've ruptured my Achilles.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that.
And we met Sam and Tara, who became great friends with. We've been sailing with them twice. Great people, love them to bits. And meeting them has changed our lives in many ways. We wouldn't be here in this unfortunate position talking to me if it hadn't been for meeting them, because we wouldn't have gone to Dubai.
No.
And then we've done loads of other stuff with them as well.
Wow. No, that's cool that you guys have made kind of lifelong friends in that. I've heard Rich's opinion about eventually wanting to get out of Dubai.
Yeah.
Before. How did you feel at that point, Kate? Were you also like, it's time to go?
No.
No.
I was not at all. Right?
Okay.
Sam, you're opening a wound here.
I loved every minute of being in Dubai. I loved it. 9 months of the year, the weather was perfect. I loved my job. It was going really well. And obviously Dubai wasn't a forever place, so I was aware that we were going to have to do something else at some point. But in very rich style, he decided, like, I've had enough, the time's to move on. And we were actually in New York for my 30th birthday. As part of my 30th birthday trip, and Rich wanted to meet an old colleague from Dubai who was in New York for lunch. And then I realised very quickly that at that lunch that Rich was planning on us moving to America, because he was basically interviewing this ex-colleague, about everything, what it was like moving from Dubai. How did you move from Dubai to America? Like all of these things. And I was like, all right, okay, this is what's happening.
That's
true, what
Rich?
Happened. That was the summer, and by the following March, we were moving, right? Because we did New York in the July of 2014, and then I'd handed in my resignation at the end of that year and said, guys, I'm moving to New York, and I gave 3 months notice, and then not New York, it was San Francisco, we moved to the US in March.
Yeah.
So was that true though, Rich, that you were in fact plotting a move to the States from the jump?
So it's funny, I don't know if she'll believe me or not, but until we sat down with him and I literally just grilled him, like just question after question after question. Yeah. And it was kind of like that. I kind of went away going, oh, right. I hadn't gone in with that intention, or maybe I'm rewriting history here. I feel like I hadn't gone in with that intention, but when at the end of that lunch, I just pecked his head so bad, I realised, I do want to come, because I wanted to get back to a regulated environment. Maybe sometimes I'll regret saying that, but I wanted to get back to the real world of financial services, and that wasn't going to happen in Dubai anytime soon. And I didn't want to go back to the UK, and that's how I had my sights set on the US. Even maybe subconsciously until that lunch.
Yeah, and you mentioned, I think before in a previous episode, were you always doing financial stuff, as a career? Yeah, and so you had mentioned previously that like if you stayed in Bolton, it would have been kind of just on a much smaller scale. So
just much more localized scale. So I'm one of those weird people who actually wanted to be a financial advisor from a young age because my dad's a financial advisor, but I didn't really want to be a financial advisor. I wanted to have my own business, work with people. That and I saw my dad doing that. It just happened to be in finance or financial services. And that's another reason why our world was so small, because we'd made it from Bolton to Manchester. I was probably going to do a reverse commute up to Bolton. These means nothing to you, Sam, but it's just like small, big, reversing from a big city to a small town.
Gotcha.
And that was the path I was heading in. But then we ended up in Dubai again, thinking we were coming back. We never were going to come back. After a while, we realised that. That's why I'm grateful to Dubai, because it opened my eyes. Like, I've moved once, I can do it again. Like now I know I could do it again. I don't want to right now, especially not with 2 kids in tow, but I know I could. So at some point, the whole world is open to me again. Or maybe we'll say here, I don't know, but I know now, I have the confidence and belief, and we can move, and maybe we will, maybe we won't. And that's pretty cool.
I agree. Even just from moving from Maryland to New York, once you move where it's no longer just a convenient trip back home, like you actually really have to plan a trip back home, and it's not easy for family or friends to come see you like immediately. That alone, once you do it once, you're like, okay, I think I could go anywhere from here now, because I know what it feels like to not kind of have that support right away when I need it, and learn how to adapt in a new place really by yourselves. I mean, you guys had each other, and I'm fortunate I have my partner as well, but it's, we think about all the time, like moving elsewhere. Do we want to go to the West Coast? Do we want to go abroad for a while? And it's a bit less scary now, because it's like, well, we already only see family during the holidays. Like, that was hard to rip that Band-Aid off, and now here we are, and I think it'll be easier moving forward.
That's it. It just gets a little bit less daunting, a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So, Kate, we're in San Fran.
Yeah.
Yep. How'd you get to San Fran? Why? Like, just job-wise?
Rich's job. They had the office in San Francisco. And it was a really brief stint, really. We were landed there in March, and we're gone again in September. Because
it's a great city, though.
Oh, great
Isn't
city!
It?
Loved
it's a great city, but the office was a bit of a disaster, and the time difference is a killer. Like,
yes.
I think I said this in a recent podcast, but I was waking up at the crack of dawn, and then I'm immediately on my phone because emails coming in, and then the UK goes to sleep, finishes, logs off for the day. It just didn't really work, and it was a bit too far for us, right, Kate?
Yeah. I mean, it was just that little bit too far. And having this conversation with other people, or someone else recently, actually, I think the other thing is about San Francisco and the West Coast is there's less sort of implants there. Like, everyone's generally from in and around. I mean, of course there's people from all over, but everyone, people might have moved from Colorado or Nevada, but like everyone's really from the West Coast or that area. And New York is a little bit, well, not a little bit, a lot more like Dubai. Like, it's not just about people being from New York. When you're in any given day, anyone that you're working with, everyone is from not just all over the States, but all over the world. And I think that is a living environment that I really enjoy. I enjoyed it about Dubai, and I think on the West Coast it's a bit harder to sort of fit in or meet people, because everyone's in their groups that they've been in for their whole lives, whereas that's not like how it is in New York.
Absolutely. How long did it take you guys in San Fran was it like a week or a couple months before you guys are like, yeah, it's this city is not going to work for us long term?
Well, it wasn't really our choice. Yeah. So we were there 6 months, and just the city itself is great. It gets so much. It's like a poster child for, it's a whipping boy for certain people. What do they call it? A doom loop or something? But it's a fantastic city. Yeah, it's got problems, and scarily you get kind of desensitized to those problems.
I think that's America.
Freakishly quickly.
A lot of American cities.
Yeah. I mean, it still remains to this day the only American city where I've seen someone threatening a security guard by tapping a pickaxe on a plate glass window in a place where the average rent is probably $12,000 a month.
Yeah,
right? It's wild.
Yeah.
Yeah. Human poo.
Welcome.
I've never seen that much human poo ever.
That is a bit alarming.
Glad kids. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's a different level.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, San Francisco was more like a hiatus from life, really, and it was a great hiatus. It was amazing. And we had my friend's wedding in Spain in the September, so we actually. And this time we had a dog, so we'd done a move from Dubai to San Francisco with our dog, and we'd staggered our moves so that our dog was never like kept in a kennel. So he stayed with me and I stayed behind in Dubai for a few weeks. I put him on a plane when they came to collect him, and then Rich was at the other end to meet him in San Francisco. And then I traveled once that was done. And then he was in like a kennels when we went on this vacation, and we flew back to San Francisco. We picked him up, we got on a plane, and we flew straight to New York. And that was September 2015. And
now, did you have a place secured in New York? How was the apartment hunt, house hunt, whatever it may be?
It was non-existent, really. So the building that we were in San Francisco, because you had to we were getting out of our contract early, so we were going to have to pay. And they said, we've got a couple of buildings in New York. If you pick one of those, you don't have to. And we were like, well, that makes it easier, because we didn't have time to go to New York and pick an apartment and all of those places. And we knew the building in New York we were in was nice. And one was on the West End, on the west side of New York, and the other one was on the Upper East Side. And we literally made the decision based on, what was going to be the easiest commute for Rich's office. And he could get on the 6 from where we were and get to the office. That was the first time we saw our apartment was the day we were moving in.
So positives and negatives there. It's a luxury actually to have a connection like from your apartment in San Fran to kind of assist you with being like, well, we have a place there, because it really is a bit of a nightmare looking for apartments in New York, especially if you're not living in New York City, because they go so fast. And if you can't get up here from wherever you are to see it beforehand, it's probably gone by the end of the day or end of the week or something. So that worked out, but you guys didn't see it beforehand. So did the apartment live up to the standards you guys needed?
I mean, it was a pretty great apartment, actually.
Nice.
It was, I mean, it was way more expensive than we could afford.
Naturally.
Way more.
The New York way.
It was a great apartment.
No, even for New York, it was staggering. We wouldn't have gone there if we'd had more time.
It would have had more time because it was the convenience aspects of what you're saying, Sam. And anyone who's moved to New York knows how stressful it is trying to find an apartment, and knowing that we didn't have to worry about the quality, it was going to be fine, it was going to be available the day we needed it, we didn't have to pay any, they weren't making us do the double all of putting down the double a month's rent or whatever it was. So like in that moment it was the easiest option, but once that 12 months were up, we were moving out because it was just so expensive.
And where to from there?
So then we moved further up on the Upper East Side, and we were on 87th and 3rd. And oh my God, I love that apartment. I still love that apartment because we had a terrace and it was great. And we had the best neighbors, Ted and Christy, who like the first time I went to the apartment when I got the keys, he was outside and he was like, I was so excited to have neighbors. And that was the other thing actually about being in New York, in our old building and this building. Everyone's like, no one in New York's friendly. Like all of our neighbors were always incredible people. And super friendly.
Love to
so
hear
we got
that.
very lucky that way as well.
No, I'd love to hear that. You can go ahead, Rich, but
we had great neighbors, and we got on. We made some of our best friends in the buildings.
That's
but
great.
Moving into that first apartment in New York, that was an experience.
Our
movers arrived.
Not within
late.
our window of like what we'd have the service elevator booked for, right? So they didn't arrive on time.
And it turned out that there's another woman who was moving in with her 3 kids. She had it booked in the afternoon, and the husband was a high flyer hedge fundy or something, and they were moving in while they had a townhouse renovated, right?
Yeah.
But she was all business. And she was terrifying.
Especially on a day like that. I can imagine this woman. I know how her day went from the moment she woke up.
Oh, yeah.
It was business that day.
I'm this helpless bumbling Brit who like, I'm not even from London, so I'm not well practiced in the ways of you city folk. And, she just like tore me apart. And then I think she felt sorry for me because I was just so helplessly shocked. Like I just became a puddle on the floor of the basement.
Wow.
And she ended up having to let me share, and then we kind of made friends.
That's good.
But that was
Not that day,
my
though.
introduction. That was my introduction to New York. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
Late
I've
movers.
heard about this.
Maybe some grumpy neighbors that day. So, okay,
Sharp
you were
elbows.
scared. You were scared a little bit the first moment.
Yeah. She totally bossed me. But then she felt so sorry. I did my best Hugh Grant impression.
Yeah.
Please
Yes.
don't hurt me. I'm British. I don't know what I'm doing. And,
Turn on that charm.
Well, yeah, that's what you want to call it.
Hey, it seemed
Sorry,
to have
Sam, I
worked.
interrupted you.
No. Well, I was, I lost my train of thought on who knows what I was going to say there. I'll cut that bit out. But yeah, no, I'm always just curious, like New York, you guys had visited New York beforehand.
Yeah.
So did New York turn out to be as hard as you expected, or as easy, or as everything that you expected New York to be? Like, was it more? Was it less? Like, I really just want to know your take on moving to New York City.
I don't know what I expected. I remember when we came for my 30th, when I didn't know we were going to be moving here, and thinking like, oh, this would have been a great place to move to in my early 20s. I think I actually said that, like, as in, like, I felt like it was too cool for me at that point in my life. But then when we moved to New York, I don't know that I immediately loved it. I mean, you love the New York, right? The touristy stuff, and you're doing it. Like, it feel like home, but it's one of those places for me, like, it just creeps up on you, and it's definitely my favorite place I've ever lived. And, Rich says never say never to going anywhere, but like, I'd feel really, really bad about living anywhere that was too far from New York anymore. Like, I just love it. It was harder than I expected. It was easier than I expected. It was all of it. But it was way better than anything I could have ever imagined also.
And you, Rich?
So, all the emotions, right? We had no intention of going to New York. We never wanted to, really. We were there for Kate's 30th. Like, this is cool. We've missed the boat here. Whatever, we'll go to San Fran. Then life happened to us. We ended up in New York, against our will, I guess you could say. But, like, also, when we were there, we used to talk like how grateful we were that this had happened and that we got to live in New York, because we knew we were going to move out to the suburbs at some point, because that's what everyone does, unless you got mega millions, which I haven't yet. So we knew that was going to happen, and we were extremely grateful for living there. And then, I actually couldn't wait to leave. When the time came, I remember, right, Kate? I think I was
a
itchy.
classic you at that moment, though, right?
I get very itchy feet, so I'm very. And I mean, we can talk about this in a second, but I have like a 2 to 3 year window on everything, and then I want something new, and that can be a superpower, and it can be very damaging. And I've done my 2 or 3 years. I was ready to move, and then you were out in Greenwich now, and we've been here since, and it's great. I do like it here, but having that distance from New York, and then realize, it made me even more appreciative of it. The problem is, you can't. The standard. There's always a trade-off, right? Life is about compromises, right? But living in New York, especially, is about compromises, and the standard of living I've got used to now. Have that standard of living in New York City, we're a long way off, and I'm not prepared to make the compromises to live in New York. So I really miss it, and I love going in. I hardly ever go in, actually, but when I do, I love it, especially walking the streets and stuff. Mm-hmm. But the compromise is required, and city tax.
Oh my
so
God,
stupid!
I know.
I hate city tax. Federal tax, fine. State tax, I'm on board. City tax came as a complete surprise to me. I've never got over it, and I hate it. I don't want to go back.
And I'm an American.
It was just too much, on top of the cost of living and everything else. And I get it; it's an expensive city. I get it. I never got okay with the city tax. It honestly plays into my thought process. But I really do. I miss it. I can't wait to spending more time there when the kids are older. I miss the restaurants. I miss walking around the streets. Yeah, I miss Central Park with the dogs before 9 a.m. Dogs off a leash. Best place in America at that time. 2 dogs, every human, off leash, in their element. Jogger comes through,
He's a
yells
dog
at people to put the leash on. Yeah, massively. But joggers get yelled at when they tell people to put the dogs on a leash because it's pre 9 a.m. so they're in the wrong. Brilliant. Yeah, I love that.
That's actually it's nice to hear you guys share your story about moving to New York City, because you both obviously came from much further, even just from San Fran back to New York, but it was the same exact experience for me, actually. The first year I moved to New York, it was not good. Like, everything traumatizing that New York can offer you, I think I experienced. And I missed my family. I missed privacy, was like a huge one. Just space and a little bit more quiet. And it's hard to even verbalize like the challenges of New York City until you live there. But I try to tell people, like, I don't know if you know what like hustling really is until you like have to physically hustle to get to the office to work. Then you have to hustle home. Everything is a bit of a challenge. But now here I am going on 3 years later, and it has changed me in a way that it's like it's grown on me. It's become a part of me that I'm grateful for. I've changed so much. So I too feel excited to leave New York, but I'm wondering if I'll start to feel like Kate eventually and be like, maybe I can't go too far from New York.
Yeah. It does change you.
But I think it's not just New York that changes you. Like, I think when you moved, what you said earlier, Sam, about away from home and what you knew and your family, like, I think your brain chemistry changes. Like, you just become a different person, and you process things in a different way, and you approach things in a different way. And I think that's what I was trying to say before about what I love about people in New York, because everyone's from everywhere, and everyone's sort of had that same brain chemistry switch of like hustling and figuring it out and making new connections and you know, becoming the person that they want to be and not being held back by, you know, whatever could have been.
Hey, put you on the spot here then, Kate. How has it changed you? I tell you what, let me widen that. How has being an expat changed you? How has America, or even specifically New York, changed you?
I think being an expat changed me in the sense of like realizing that the UK isn't the center of the universe, which sounds so utterly ridiculous. But growing up in Britain, like, everyone, like, you know, even if people are for different ethnicities working in a workplace, like when I was at Ernst & Young, everyone works in the same way because you just like regimented and you fall in line and you do it that way. And I think realizing that there are other ways of doing things, sometimes better, sometimes worse, and in living your life and just being open to that, that's what changed me, I think. And understanding that what growing up you would have been like, oh, that's crazy, I can't believe people do that. And then you're living it somewhere else and you're seeing how they do it. And you're like, that's way better than we ever did it in the UK. Like, why were we not doing it like that? Yeah. And also I think for me, it always makes me laugh, like thinking about like, in the UK, British people think everyone thinks Britain is great and British people are great. And then you move abroad and you realize that that's absolutely not the case. And a lot of people hate us and don't think we're great. And I always think like in America, it's a bit the same. But like in America, everyone thinks that like everyone hates Americans because Americans are so great. Like they hate us because they're jealous of us. Like that's the American ethos. And I think it's a little bit the same in Britain. Like, oh yeah, but I don't think anyone growing up in Britain, it did not occur to me that most people hated us. And then I moved abroad and realized that people find the British people pretty obnoxious in general. And they're not wrong, I don't think.
And Rich, can you give a summary of like how it's changed you? So
being an expat, it changed me. It is kind of the same thing as Kate, but not quite the same way of saying it. It broadened my horizons. Not necessarily that I thought the UK was the centre of the world. It's just, I just didn't see, there's just no consideration. There just wasn't an option. It wasn't even like a thought. It just broadened my horizons, and that is it sounds like a little thing, but it's huge. It's freeing, and I'm so grateful that happened. America has changed me, and I think it's America. It might just be that I was that age, right? I was in my early 30s, and I was just naturally growing up. But I don't think it is that. It might be some of that, but I think America changed me in that, or maybe New York, in that I don't know how to verbalize this, but just what was possible was so much more. There's so much going on in New York. There's so much excellence. I'd never really been around it before. I'd never really seen people achieving so much. Everyone just stayed in their lane a little bit more from what I was used to, and your lane was established pretty early on. You know, whether it's career lane or your intelligence or whatever, and I was put in a lane, and I was gonna stay in my lane. And I don't know whether it's America, whether it's New York, whether it's my age, but everything expanded dramatically, and it's completely changed me. And I hope Kate would say the same. It's made me a much better person. We're coming up to 10 years now, and I am not the same. I hope this is not just me telling myself stories, but I am not the same person that arrived here. No way.
Neither of us are. No way.
So
No.
I would hope not.
No, yeah,
No.
exactly. You don't want to be the same person, right? Like, for sure.
Exactly. I think you'd be back across the pond already if that was the case. So while you were in New York, did you guys kind of plan on staying, or when was that transition to be like, okay, I think this is like where we're going to stay? I mean, mind that you're in Connecticut now, but close enough.
Yeah.
Kate tells everyone New York, by the way. She wants Connecticut.
It's close enough.
She wants Connecticut
one
property
end of our
taxes.
street is New York.
Yeah. She wants Connecticut property taxes, but to tell everyone she's in New York.
That's fair.
I just don't like saying Connecticut. I don't know why.
Because
I love Greenwich, but
You could say Greenwich. The New Yorkers know what you mean.
yeah. It's totally a commuter town, right? That's what it is. Like, it's right over the border, but I'm now explaining why I say New York. I forgot what your question was now, Rich.
when did this become
Oh, there's Sam. Yeah, sorry. I don't know that it was really conscious.
life happened?
That, like, well, okay, now's the, like, how we're moving or what we're doing. Like, we were obviously up to renew our apartment for another year, and it was like, okay, we're going to renew for another year, or is this the time that we're going to move out, kind of thing. Greenwich was picked because it was the first train stop outside of New York. It's Portchester and then it's Greenwich. That was the entire decision-making factor, because I was working in the office 5 days a week, so wanted like a good commute in. And so again, like, Sam was sort of exposing ourselves as people who don't like massively overthink major decisions. Like, oh, that seems like a good enough reason, we'll go with that. And that's what we did, and that's exactly how we landed on Greenwich. And then we moved out end of 2018 to Greenwich. And with hindsight, it was perfect timing, because then at end of 2019, we bought our first house and we were in it before COVID hit. So I don't know that I would have had the same loving memories of New York if I'd have been trapped in a one-bed apartment on quarantine, you know, trying towards both work and, you know, all of that would have been hell, I'm sure. So we made the right moves at the right time with hindsight.
When did the kids come into play? Because I assume, you guys had conversations amongst each other about maybe wanting to start a family and all of that, and that's a complex process. And I know, you know, from off camera that you guys have adopted children as well, so that's a whole nother process here.
Yeah, so that was actually one of the reasons why we couldn't be in New York when we were going down the adoption route, because
it was just going to be. It was just the rules are different, and it would be. It was just a reason. It was just easy. It's going to be easier for us, more straightforward, to be in Connecticut, and that's how I ended up in Connecticut. And we would have stayed in New York, right? Okay, we moved to the suburbs to have a family. Like, we wouldn't have moved had
Yeah.
it not been a family thing.
No, yeah. I don't know though. I think you would have still pushed for it because you were just at the moment
I was
of
just
like,
doing that thing, wasn't I? But
yeah.
now,
So I think we
I
probably,
think we'd have moved back in. Because we talked about it like as well. But this is now the longest I've ever been somewhere since home, and I went through a period. Remember where I just, but I had enough self. It's taken me 40 years, but I had enough self awareness to be able to say to you, "Okay, I'm having that thing where I've got itchy feet. Like, I'm restless. I need to make a change. Like, watch me, because I'm liable to do something rash." I've not always had that, like, self awareness or Kate telling me, you know.
but also this would be the first time I think that I wouldn't be like, yeah, sure, let's do something. We've got 2 young kids. Like,
Yeah.
we've got jobs. Like,
Behave.
I am not just selling this house and buying another house for, the crack. Like,
Yeah.
that's not going to happen.
Behave, because you're bored.
Yes. Take up a hobby. We're not moving.
Yeah.
Like,
Do you feel like there's been any like specific challenges, like, or I don't know, both, like, what's your maybe most, like, the worst thing about coming here and the best thing? Like, has there been anything that stuck out to you besides the city tax in New York?
We had an awful situation with our neighbours, right? Without getting into too specifics, but I think it has happened to you once in your life, but we had like a really horrible, like, the kind of thing where it keeps you up at night, and we were basically bullied. Yeah, it sounds strange saying that. I was in my mid-30s, but we were basically.
Hey, I've had crazy neighbors here in New
Yeah.
York City as well.
we were basically bullied and hounded, and it really takes over your waking life when it's that intense. And that was a truly awful situation. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but as often seems to be the case with bad things, good came out of it, because we ended up in the house we're in now, which we bought just at the right time before things took off because of COVID, and then we've now and then we had another kid. We couldn't have done that in the old house. So it was awful. It was really awful. It ruined a good few months or longer of our lives, but it led to a good thing.
it's not unique to America that could have happened anywhere, I think.
Yeah, I was wondering.
way.
I was like, do you feel like that is like American?
No,
or
I think
it's
that was
like
just
that's
like
pretty much
unlucky.
anywhere you can have a
Yeah.
nightmare neighbor situation.
I don't know that this is
Universal.
like a horrible, but like I think one of the things that was surprisingly hard, like not hard's the wrong word because this is funny, but it's also true, is that we don't actually speak the same language. And so you move to Dubai and you're moving to an Arabic country and things are going to be different and culture's going to be different. You're going to expect it to be different and all of those things. But you move to New York in America and you think that the culture's the same. Like, I grew up watching Friends every week. Like, all of our TV was American, all the movies were American. Like, and we speak the same language. But then when you hear, like, there is a culture shift and a change and even a language change. But you're here for a while before you realize that. So you're sort of like bumping up against all these walls. Like, what's going on? Like, why is it not clicking? And then it occurs to you, like, it's not the same. And figuring that out is like you have a real aha moment of like, oh, it's not the same.
How did
Not
you?
good or bad. It's just different. Like,
How did you mirror people at that point? Like, how were you able to be like, okay, I need to say hi, how are you to people, even if I don't necessarily care how they are or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, did you have to kind of mirror people, or did you just?
Well, you just sort of like get used to it. Like, there's something that I do it all the time now, so I know I've acclimatized. But I used to think it was so weird that people would be like, "Thank you so much," like after everything. "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." Like, why do it? And now I do it all the time. Like, because it feels rude to just say thank you. So I was like, "Thank you so much. Thank you so much." When someone's clearing your table or you order
Wow.
something, "Thank you so much." And like, it's just like really small things that at the time you're like, "This is weird and it doesn't make sense." And then, but again, I have in the whole time I've been here, I work with Americans all the time. So you figure things out. Like now Rich still says really English words. Like he'll still say diary, not calendar.
Oh, but I do that on purpose now.
I never, yeah,
do-
no,
but I
no,
do-
but I would never it would never think diary now because diary sounds so weird.
Well,
but
yeah, but it also makes me laugh that when I say get my diary out, if there's an American listening, they're thinking of a 13-year-old girl writing their innermost thoughts into a diary. So it's kind of that always gives me a good chuckle. But also, I do use Britishisms or whatever or intentionally because I don't want to let go of it.
Lose them. Yeah.
And I don't want a mid-Atlantic accent, which we might already have. We just don't know it. That wouldn't be good.
But it's easier for you to not let go of them because you deal with British people. Like I don't want to have to over-explain myself at work, so I've had to speak in the language that other people speak at work. Or otherwise, you have to be like, you have to explain it because people will just look at you and be like, I'm sorry, what do you mean? So you don't have to, you have the luxury of not doing that because of your business and who you work with. But I work mostly with Americans, and so I had to figure out ways in which hopefully they understood me the first time.
You have thrived in America, though, right, professionally. So I wonder if, again, is that just because you were in your 30s versus in your 20s in the UK, or is that because you're secretly American at heart? I mean, you literally are American now.
She's assimilated.
Yeah, but maybe you're really, you were meant to have been born here. Maybe you're an American.
I don't know. Like, I was thinking about this, that, not that I can't ever imagine us moving back to the UK, but like, I don't know if I could work in the UK anymore. I think people would probably think I was a bit too aggressive.
Yeah. Have you adapted well to American work culture rather than, UK work culture?
Yeah, I love it.
I think people would
You
think
like
you're
the
aggressive.
pace?
But maybe in England, I think. I don't know. I just had this thought of being like, because I have adapted here and I love it and I love my job and I love my work and I love all of those things. But I also look at the way things work in the UK now and I'm like, well, like, what? Why would they do that? Like,
I bet the UK is different. I mean, this is bring this full circle
totally.
back to we're 12 years outside of the UK now, and I bet. I mean, it's changed dramatically. Just on the surface, you can know what's changed, Brexit and all the rest of it. But
yeah,
I imagine the working culture, I imagine, has moved on. I don't know what it is, whether it's moved to more like the America now or less, but it will be different. We have this frozen in time memory, right?
Yeah, totally. But I was thinking, I wonder if people would be like, oh, she's a bit abrasive.
Why do you think is that the America's more direct in a good way? America's definitely more direct.
Yeah,
and that
I
suits
agree.
me. I'm more direct. Like I prefer
You have
to
to
just
dance
like
around stuff so much.
Yeah, tell me if you've done something wrong. Tell me if you're annoyed at me. Like, I would rather know. And I would also rather just articulate it than dance around it with somebody else. So maybe that is one of the things I think helps.
I've got one of my favorite clients, fantastic guy, really accomplished. He used to work in an international business, something to do with change management. And he once told me this anecdote about how the business was going through a period of massive change, and they had these consultants come in to like get everyone in these different locations worldwide on the same page, right? And he said the consultant said to him, "You'll go to the UK and you'll do a presentation on why you've got to change, what direction we're going in, and all this stuff." And they'll sit there and go, "Why? What? What's in it? What? Convince me, basically." And you'll go to France and you'll do the same presentation, exactly the same, and the French will just go, "No." Right, and then you'll come to America and you'll deliver the same presentation, and they'll be on the tables whooping, hollering, "Yeah, boss, consider me in." He said, "Then exactly the same thing will happen everywhere." I was like, "What? Nothing." So there's different approaches or different responses, but maybe we're all the same at heart.
Yeah, I think we are. Breaking the fourth wall here for Kate. I work for like a British production company, and I'm the only American on the team. So I constantly am having kind of these experiences where we communicate a bit differently. And when you guys came to the word direct, I think that's really it in a nutshell. And my team has told me that they enjoy that about me. I hope they're not lying.
Oh, really?
But I'm extremely direct because I don't. It's interesting because Americans are known for being like really nice and full of pleasantries, but actually I don't really have time for them when I'm working. like I don't need to say thank you. Like let's just like do our jobs, and if I have a question I'll ask, and everything is very direct. But I don't struggle with the verbiage change. Like I understand everything that you say to me, Rich, even if you use the word diary.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that necessarily matters. Maybe it's because I'm from a bit younger of a generation. Like I think that is a change too. Like generationally, I think we're more open to going to different cultures and just welcoming different cultures. So I just basically you ad lib whatever you're saying. I'm like, I think I understand.
Well, because in the context of the sentence, you pretty much
Exactly.
get it, right?
Yeah. Like we don't need to
yeah.
fret over the words. Like whatever you say is fine. Yeah. Same with me.
Any big surprises, Kate, or any big lessons learned along the way? Things you might do differently?
No, because I'm a great believer that if it had changed that, then it would change the outcome, and I'm pretty happy with all of our outcomes right now. So there's nothing that I would go back and change, I think. I think the overall lesson from everything is risk appetite, being open to change and doing things. I think that's where we've both changed and where we're much better people. And we're way more open-minded, I think, of like just general like, oh, go for it, try it with different people and things that they're thinking about versus, oh no, maybe not. You know?
Do you think that would have happened if we'd never moved?
No, I don't think that would have happened.
Do you think it would have happened if we were still in Dubai?
No,
I don't.
Because then you become something else in Dubai.
Yeah.
It's just super protected and coddled, and it's like not a real life. I think that would have been different as well.
You can really indulge in Dubai. You know, you can almost like not real life. You just pay people peanuts to do everything around you and just carry on living like Peter Pan. I'm glad.
So I don't think it's
I know
that.
you were happy, but I'm glad we got out.
No, yeah. But again, like I wouldn't change it because I'm like thinking about everything, and like I said, none of it was ever conscious because never really thought very far into the future. And if anyone had ever asked the child me, the teenage me, the 20-something me of where I imagined I was going to be at 40, as cheesy as this sounds, like what we've got is way beyond anything I could have, were beyond my wildest dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we live this like ridiculous lifestyle, but because before, like your frame of reference and the box that you're in is what it is. And in my childhood and my teens and my early 20s, this is so beyond anything that I could have ever thought about that it just seems wild that this is our life now.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you know, I love a good rumination. I changed a lot, but that's more about me personally from years ago, not necessarily the path that we've taken. I wish.
As a couple, do you guys feel, I'm assuming because you're sitting here together as a couple, but it's made you guys, do you feel like the move kind of made your growth together as a couple like expedited because of the challenges of moving? I mean, I'm sure you guys saw each other be exhausted or just like over it at times or something. How did that work for you guys as a couple?
I could talk for myself 100%. Like 100. Yeah. Oh, it has made us. We were already very close, but it's made us so much closer. And we've been through a lot else as well in our 30s, right, Kate? We've been like, but I think also like the other parts of it, which I think are
we've learned and grown from is like knowing when the other one's like at their limit and the other one needs to like be like, so, okay, I got this. I'm going to figure this next step. I'm going to figure it out while you just collect yourself. And then we've definitely from Dubai onwards, it never happened in the move because that was just, we were so young, but from Dubai onwards, there was just specific moments, like pivotal moments of one of us like on an absolute meltdown because we were doing this monumental decision, and I'm talking like a half-hour meltdown, and the other one being like, don't worry, I got this, like we're gonna figure it out. And I think that learning that piece about somebody else and knowing that they've got you, like when you were just like, I can't handle this, like they've got it and they're gonna carry us forward to the next step, and that it balances out. It's not like one of us is always in meltdown mode and the other one isn't. That I think that really helped.
And every couple, every person is unique. They go through unique circumstances. They go through good times, bad times, challenging times, and learn about themselves. But we did Manchester to Dubai, Dubai to San Francisco to New York to Greenwich. We moved within that period. We've navigated visa systems, immigration systems. We've gone through employers and starting our own business. We've gone through personal challenges. We've got adoption. We're now Brits who are American with their own business and with adopted kids. It's just like, there's a lot that happened in that 10 years. And that is either going to make you or break you. And it's made us, I think. It really has made us,
Absolutely.
I think. Like, such a unique, crazy set of circumstances that we had to tackle together. And...
But I think it all goes back to that first decision to move to Dubai, that we're just people who made a conscious decision to roll with the punches. And so like it makes it easier instead of like butting your head against something happening because you don't want it to happen, like it is. So like figure it out.
We also have this thing whereby when something goes bad, Kate freaks out and I'm like, oh, it'll be fine. And then it could be half an hour, it could be half a day, it could be 3 days, depends how big the problem is. Kate's figured it out, is on the up, and then I have a complete meltdown. I have like a delayed reaction.
Yeah.
So by that time, so in the early days, she has a meltdown and I'm there to sort of support her. And by the time that I finally catch up with what's going on, Kate's there to pick me off the ground and tell me it's going to be okay.
He used to say that I was really negative because I'd be like, you hope for the best, but you plan for the worst. And Rich thought it was really negative to plan for the worst. So he just like, hope for the best. Yeah. And then
it's going to be
the
great.
best wasn't happening, he would freak out. And I'd be like, it's okay, I've got a plan. We're doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. I love having you guys here and being a part of this show because I see a lot of myself and my partner in you both, just obviously at a bit of a different phase. But it's really nice to kind of have taken a leap with somebody and gone through all those challenges, and then you're able to be like, look at this thing that we've built together.
Yeah.
That's
the
it,
bond
Sam,
is like, it will never go away.
That's it.
Because no matter what happens, you guys built something together.
Yeah. Yeah, we did, yeah. And we've got a great little family right now. We lost a dog. We lost the dog that we staggered the arrival to America with, Caesar. We lost him over summer, which was a blow. But we have a great little family. It's fun. Yeah. It's absolute mayhem. I'm exhausted all the time. It's on a Sunday. They basically just abused us.
It won't be like that forever.
Yeah,
I think that's what people say.
No, but then you got to enjoy the moment. I cling. On Sunday, I was clinging to this stat, but apparently by the time they're 12, you've spent 75% of the time with them, and by the time they're 18, it's something like 90 or 95%. So you can't always remember that, but I do really try and hold on to that because it is magic as well. But it's blooming heck, it can be hard work.
I totally tempted fate though, because on Saturday night I was like, this has been the best weekend ever.
Was.
We've had such a good time. Like, oh my God. Like, we'd been and seen Christmas lights. I was in full on Christmas mode. Like, this was just delightful. And then Sunday, like, we had 2 Tasmanian devils, like, ripping around.
You cursed it. The point you said that, it was the truth. I'm with you all the way. And I don't know if they Roman heard us, but they heard us, and the next day they're like, I'm going to make you pay. It was wild. Sunday was wild. Okay. Well, look, Kate, this is a podcast about being an expat in America. So I always ask our guests what the American dream means to them. So I'm going to ask you, what does the American dream mean to you?
I mean, very literally, it means our life, my family, what we've got right now. Like, we wouldn't have had any of it were it not for the decision to be here. So, like, on a very micro level, I think that is always going to be the first thing I think about. Our American boys, our American dog, Monty's, all of it. Like, everything we've got is that. But I think also, and I'm speaking very specifically from an expat lens here, not obviously the systemic issues that are in the US are difficult for other people, but it really is like that anything is possible. When we moved here, thinking that like, and I'd had a gap in my career because I didn't have the visa, like honestly thinking that whether I was going to get my career back on track and where it was going to go. So from a work perspective, as well as a personal perspective, putting in the effort has reaped rewards beyond what I was expecting. And I think that wouldn't have happened if we'd have kept our careers in the UK. I don't know where we'd be.
We'd be in our lanes.
I don't think I would be here.
We'd be stuck in our lanes that we were put in subconsciously. Before we had any say in the matter. Maybe we'd have broken out of it, but I'm not convinced.
And I don't know that I grew up, and I definitely didn't grow up around anyone who loved their jobs or loved their careers. And I'm sure that's different in the UK now, and people have different expectations from what they're looking for from their jobs. But, right now at the pivotal age that I'm turning, like loving my career, loving my job, loving the mentors and relationships that I've built from a work perspective. Again, something that I did not experience in the UK, although I was way more junior in my career. And then everything, the boys starting school and all of those pieces and entering onto that next phase is just like...
I mean, that you truly have a mentor, though, and that has changed your life, our life. Everyone talks about mentors, but, you don't just go out and find one. Some people might never have one. That's been a revelation for you, for us. It's fantastic. Sam, I'm going to ask you, because I've always asked expats, and I wonder, as an American, what does that phrase mean to you? Is it just annoying? Is it like, oh my God, these bloody foreigners talking about the American? Like, what's your relationship with it?
I mean, I guess it's actually from this podcast, I've learned a lot, and from moving to New York, I learned a lot, and that's coming from a similar place of just like, I am an extremely empathetic person, and when I first moved to New York, I disliked it very much, but I was extremely conscious of like what this means to people like yourselves to come to a different country and have an opportunity to change your lives for the better or worse, whatever it may be. You're going to come here and learn something and have a piece of America with you. So for me, the American dream really is that, like, and it works for me too. Us Americans have the ability to make the American dream possible, which is living the life that we want to live. I mean, I can dream my life and make it a reality. And that, I don't know if that's something that, because I'm an American, I was just kind of born with that mentality, and maybe expats come here and adjust to that mentality. I'm not sure, but that's kind of the energy around it that I feel. And I never want to take away anybody's chance at a dream here in America, because I do think it's possible. Probably isn't as easy as it might seem that you read about or watch a movie about, but it's here and it is alive and well. So I think, anything is possible.
I think it's like, so I often think about how growing up in a mature democracy, I took democracy for granted, freedom of speech, all those things, right? Habeas corpus, due process, whatever. And then as you get older, you realize how fragile those things actually are and how they take work to maintain, how precious they are. I mean, let's talk about America for the last few years, right? That was but it's not just America, like globally, you just become aware, like, oh, this system I took for granted, this doesn't just happen. and it's precious. And I think maybe the American dream, we come here and like, oh, opportunity, all these things that we've talked about in this podcast, and Kate was just talking about. Maybe for you, it was just, well, that's America. It is what it is, And maybe now, it'd be great to hear or it's great if it's accurate that by hearing these conversations that I've been having with people, it gives you an appreciation for it, because there's opportunity here in a way that there just isn't. I love Europe, right? I love Europe.
Me too.
But there is just not the same opportunity there for young people that there is here. It's a different ball game altogether. It truly is.
Yeah. And I think being American, and now you guys are too, not to get like political, but it also, this type of stuff, like, and keeping your guys' dreams alive is why I vote, like why a lot of people vote. And like, I care about making America more inclusive and welcoming to immigrants, and a place where the American dream actually still stays alive. So happy to have you guys here.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Great.
Very happy to be here.
Okay. So, Kate, as we wrap up, where can people find you if they want to hunt you down?
LinkedIn's a pretty good place.
Yeah. Okay. LinkedIn it is, folks. All right. Well, listen, Kate, thank you for being on Always an Expat. It's been great to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Different episode.
It was really nice to meet you, Sam, as well.
Oh, yeah. It's nice to meet you as well.
Producer Sam, it's been great having you as part of the conversation, bringing your different perspectives, as I say, rather than lurking.
Yeah, it's been fun. Of course.
She doesn't lurk, everyone. She doesn't lurk.
I love coming back or coming out from behind the shadows every now and again and joining the show. So happy to be here, Rich.
Super. All right, great. Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Ta-ra.
Thank you.
Bye.